It's silly, isn't it? I feel frightened as if what we are about to interfere with should be best left alone. Hello and welcome to the Who Show. Today we have a very special episode because today is November 23rd, which means it is Doctor Who Day. And this year, Doctor Who is 56 years young. Yes, I said young. Anyways, we are going to be talking about the very first episode of Doctor Who ever. Yes, we are rolling back the clocks to 1963 and talking about the serial An Unearthly Child, which has 4 parts. Now, we are going to be giving an overview of the episode for those who have not watched it. However, there are kind of spoilers ahead, but if you don't care about that, let's press on. And giving my review of each individual episode and then as a serial altogether. So, let's go. Alrighty, we are going to be talking about episode 1 of the story, An Unearthly Child, which is the first ever episode, the one that aired on November 23rd, 1963. So, to give an overview of the story, we meet Ian and Barbara at Coal Hill School, which is the school Susan goes to, who, if you are not acquainted with Classic Who, Susan is the Doctor's granddaughter. I know. New Who fans are like, the Doctor has relatives after everything we've learned about him in New Who, but his very first companion was his granddaughter, who we learned is age 15 by Ian and Barbara. Ian is a science teacher at the school, and Barbara is a history teacher. And their curiosity sparks about Susan because she's brilliant in some things and completely, lack of better words, dumb. I was trying to quote it and I couldn't quote it. Good one on me. Anyways, so we see Ian and Barbara talking a little bit about Susan, and then we meet Susan, because at the beginning of the episode, the first person we saw was Barbara because class was letting out and Barbara was going to Ian's classroom. Anywho, all 3 of them are in the room, and Ian offers a ride to Susan because Barbara and Ian want to get down a little bit more of this whole thing with Susan because Barbara told Susan she should specialize in history, and Susan said that is not possible because her grandfather, who is a doctor, does not like strangers, and Barbara didn't buy that one bit. So Ian and Barbara were like, oh, we're going to follow her home because the address the secretary gave her was 76 Totter's Lane, which is a junkyard. Yes, we're starting off in a junkyard. So after, Barbara gives a book and everything, we see Barbara and Ian in a car outside the junkyard as Susan's walking in, and they're talking about Susan's intelligence, about like how she didn't know how many shillings were in a pound, which, if you guys don't know what pounds are, it's the British money system. And then also about how the dimensions, how you can't just work in 3, you have to work in 5, according to Susan, and about like chemical reactions, all this different stuff. And Ian's trying to tell her, you know what, she's 15. she's meeting a boy. And Barbara's like, I hope so, but something doesn't feel right about the situation. So they go in the junkyard and they find the police box, which is the TARDIS. And they go up to it and they're like, oh, it's alive, this and the other. The doctor comes in. The doctor and Ian are like talking with each other about all this stuff. And like, because the doctor asked why they were there. And they're like, oh, we're looking for Susan, a kid of ours from school. And the doctor doesn't believe that. The doctor's weary about that. So they hear Susan from inside the TARDIS calling out to the doctor, and the doctor goes into the TARDIS. We have Ian and Barbara pushing their way into the TARDIS, and they're astonished because it's bigger on the inside, but unlike New Who, we don't get that from, well, we kind of do, but not really, not like those exact words. But we have this whole Ian and Barbara on one side saying, Susan, you're crazy, you know, this is something you and your grandfather are playing as an illusion. And we have Doctor and Susan going at us like, no, this is real, all this stuff, all just going. And we even learn that Susan made the acronym for TARDIS, which TARDIS stands for time and relative dimension in space. And Susan was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to call it TARDIS. So after this whole intervention and everything, Ian's like to the doctor to let us leave because at this point the TARDIS doors are closed, and yeah, he doesn't let them leave. He actually sets the TARDIS in motion, which during takeoff, Ian and Barbara pass out. And all that fun jazz. So overall, yeah, that's kind of an Unearthly Child in a nutshell. So the second episode is The Cave of Skulls. This episode starts with us in a cave with cavemen. And Za is trying to make fire. The old lady is telling him he should not make fire. And all this other stuff. And then we jump back to the TARDIS, where we have Ian and Barbara just waking up, and Susan and the doctor checking all the readings, making sure everything's okay outside. And at this point, we get a sense that Ian is not having it. He doesn't believe any of this. He thinks this is all hoax and everything. And he's like, because the doctor casually mentions, they're back in time. And Ian's like, we have not moved from a junkyard in London, England in 1963 and then, the doctor shows the surroundings of outside, which is just rocks and sand. And when even Ian's not having it, he's not believing any of this. He thinks this is all hoax. Barbara's kind of on board, not on board, but like she's interested. She doesn't believe this is all fake and all of that. So the TARDIS gang decides to venture out. Yes, I just said TARDIS gang. God, are we skipping forward in time? Anyways, so they leave the TARDIS. It's kind of like Doctor One Way to go get some samples to figure out where they are, like time era. And it's Ian, Barbara, and Susan another way. And the doctor first mentions that the TARDIS had not changed. That's still a police box. And then we get more confirmation from Susan, because she says, oh, it's not changed. And they're like, it's supposed to change? She's like, oh yeah, it's been the chair, it's been the column. So we kind of know when the chameleon circuit probably went out. Anyways, so then we have, Ian, Susan, Barbara one way, doctor another way, and then the doctor gets captured by Kale. Well, we'll learn as Kale. And Susan's going crazy because the doctor's gone, his stuff's all over the floor, and his journal's there. And he never leaves without his journal because it has stuff for the TARDIS and everything they've been. So, Ian packs up everything and they head out. And then we jump back to the cavemen where we have them all going on and on about stuff. And as Kale comes in with the doctor over his shoulder, puts him on the table and says, this person can make fire and everything. And we have them talking, and then and then the doctor wakes up and was like, I can make you fire, and tries to go find his matches, and yeah, they're not there because what Kale thought was fire from the doctor, because Kale said it came out of my mouth, was the doctor smoking. I don't know if I think he was definitely smoking the pipe, but he had like the pipe and stuff. Anyways, so then it comes to this thing where Ian, Susan, and Barbara come rushing in to try to save the doctor, and the tribe, I think it was the old lady, decides to say, put them all in the cave of skulls. And we end the episode with them stuck in a cave. So yeah, that's that episode. Episode 3 is The Forest of Fear. This episode, they are all in the cave at first, and then we see the old lady coming and freeing them because the old lady doesn't want fire, so she told them to go, get away, and don't make fire. However, Za and this younger girl, I couldn't figure out her name, want them because Za wants to make fire because fire makes them a leader, this, that, and the other. So we have the Tarzan running away, Za running after them, and all that fun jazz. And then, they take some the four of them take breaks and stuff, and then Barbara screams from some dead animal that they find, and then that's how Za and the lady find them, and then Za gets injured, and the doctor's like, we're going because the tribe's probably behind us because the old lady, this, that, and the other. And Ian's like, we gotta help her, help them, and then Barbara and Susan agree. So they're trying to help help the girl with Za, and trying to make communications because the girl's afraid, this, that, and the other. And then all of that. And then they make a stretcher for Za with the coats. Why did I blank? A stretcher with some coats, and then we see them taking Za and the girl to the TARDIS, and then all the cavemen are around them, and that's kind of how it ends. So this episode was kind of anticlimactic. So yeah. Then episode 4, The Fire Maker. This episode, basically, title says it all. So we see the tribe coming to face with the doctor, and Kale's the leader right now. Because Kale's not the official leader, but Kale basically is trying to turn the tribe against Za because he was trying to set up the old lady who died, her death on Za. However, Za's knife is clean, Kale's is dirty. So, who do you think killed the old lady? Then we have them being thrown back into the cave of skulls, and Ian makes fire, and Za is trying to learn that because he thinks that knowing how to make fire is the leader, even though the doctor and Ian are like, no, fire maker does not mean leader. Anywho, after that, we see the tribe trying to turn against Za again because there's no meat, basically no food, no fire. And then Kale goes into the cave, and basically Kale and Za have a fight, and the four of them are watching, and Kale dies. And it ends up where there's fire, Za brings the fire, and they're still stuck in the cave because Za wants their tribe and his to meet up, but they come up with a plan and basically have some of the skulls on fire that's on sticks that are burning to look like they died in the fire. So when all the cave people came in, they could escape. And they escape, they get to the TARDIS before the cavemen come. And then in the TARDIS, we have an intervention because Ian and Barbara want to go back to 1963. However, because they left so fast, they can't right now because of stuff. So yeah, that is episode 4. So my thoughts. I think out of 4, Unearthly. So this is my feeling. The whole story as a whole, if it's fine, it's not bad for the time, but I've definitely watched this before doing this review. Like, not like this review was the first time I've seen it. No, I've seen Unearthly Child and the whole story. I love the first Unearthly actual episode. I love the whole idea of it, and it really feels like a standalone episode to the next 3, which are the cavemen. The cavemen part, it's fine, it's cavemen. I could see for some people how it could be very boring because there's some stuff, but there's not a lot. But the unearthly part, Unearthly Child, I love it so much. I do think it's very beneficial, not just for everybody to go like watch the whole thing, but definitely the first episode because it's the first introduction of Susan, first introduction of Ian, Barbara, the TARDIS, the Doctor, and everything. It's the first, and it's just so well crafted. Like, it's not like coming out like, oh, here's these people. It's like, oh, here's a schoolgirl. She's really intelligent, this, that, and the other for a 15-year-old, and all that fun jazz. But overall, it's a good story. Definitely something everybody should go see. And all of that. So, what are your thoughts on this story of the Unearthly Child? Do you like one section better than the other? Have you ever seen it? Have you not? If you've seen it, how did you like it? Sound off in the comments down below. And what other episodes of Classic Who do you want me to review? Because this was not suggested, voted on, but by people in Amino, which not sponsored, not affiliate. It's like a big community of people. So I asked a lot of people on the Doctor Who one what they wanted to see for 50th. I gave them this option, the Day of the Doctor review, another Adventure in Time and Space review, which is the documentary about Unearthly Child and the whole like first year of Doctor Who, or about something else. And everybody wanted to see this story. So, what do you guys want to review? Because I don't want to do what the people want. Because there's some episodes I know people say you shouldn't watch, some episodes people say you should definitely watch. If you have an episode of Doctor Who, classic or new, that you want me to review, leave it in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more Doctor Who. Hit the thumbs up if you like this video. And until next time, have a good day.